me, you're going to balance the budget.
Balance the budget without making cuts in Social Security and Medicare.
Does not add to our debt or our deficit.
We are going to cut many of the agencies. We will balance our budget, and we will be dynamic again.
It's a very dangerous idea, but it's the world we live in.
Congressman Mick Mulvaney, would he have voted for this?
Oh, probably not, but keep in mind, I'm not Congressman Mick Mulvaney anymore.
And I'm still against deficit spending. Just because Republicans are doing it doesn't make it any better.
And now we have deficits projected to be $1 trillion again, and yet in a growing non-recessionary economy. Are you troubled by that?
Yeah, I'm very worried.
Trump wants to overhaul America's safety net with giant cuts to housing and food stamps and health care. The budget that President Trump proposed Monday takes a hard whack at the poorest Americans, slashing billions of dollars from food stamps, public health, insurance, and federal housing vouchers, while trying to tilt the programs in more conservative direction. The spending plan reaches beyond the White House's own power over the government social safety net and presumes lawmakers will overhaul long-standing entitlement programs for the poor in ways beyond what Congress so far has been willing to do. The changes call on lawmakers to eliminate the expansion of Medicaid under the Affordable Care Act and transform the rest of that program into a system of capped payments to states. Convert food assistance into a hybrid of traditional cash benefits, and expand requirements that low-income people work to qualify for federal assistance. We're very encouraged by their approach to reforming the welfare state, both the taxpayers and the people on these programs, said Akash Kagule, Director of Policy for the libertarian group Americans for Prosperity. We're encouraged by the president's rhetoric and recent actions. Congress has final say over spending, but Monday's budget proposal is seen as an important sign of Trump's priorities. Specifically, the Trump budget proposal would gut the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, better known as food stamps, by $17.2 billion in 2019, equivalent to 22% of the program's total cost last year, and implement a box food delivery program, a system that the White House budget director Mick Mulvaney compared to Blue Apron. The proposal would bring a fundamental change to a program that for the past 40 years has allowed recipients to use SNAP benefit at grocery stores as if they were cash. SNAP provides an average of $125 per month to 42.2 million Americans. Under the full-scale redesign, the Agriculture Department would use a portion of those benefits to buy and deliver a package of U.S.-grown commodities, officially dubbed America's Harvest Box, to recipients using the government's buying power to lower costs. The deliveries of government-purchased foods would amount for roughly half of the benefits for the vast majority of SNAP households. The foods in the deliveries would include shelf-stable milk, juice, grains, cereals, pasta, peanut butter, beans, and canned meat, fruits, and vegetables, according to the USDA. The department estimates that it could supply these goods at roughly half the cost of retail, slashing the cost of SNAP while still feeding the hungry. Advocates for the hungry said they are skeptical of the plan and unclear how it would work for people with specialized diets or whether USDA would allot the same foods to, say, an elderly diabetic and a family with young children. The president's budget proposes to replace in significant part the very successful current system of having SNAP recipients use EBT cards to purchase food through grocery stores. supermarkets, and farmers markets, and other normal commercial channels with a Rube Goldberg design system of commodity distribution via food boxes that can be administratively costly, inefficient, stigmatizing, and prone to failure. And that will return the country to Depression-era anti-hunger approaches, Jim Will, president of the Food Research and Action Center, said in a statement. The proposal is likely to enrage food retailers, particularly Walmart, Target, and Aldi, which stand to lose billions if the food stamp benefits are cut, analysts say. On Monday, the Food Marketing Institute, a trade association for grocery stores, condemned the Harvest Box proposal as expensive, inefficient, and unlikely to generate any long-term savings. Trump's budget proposal calls for an additional cuts of more than $213.5 billion over the next decade to SNAP, a reduction of nearly 30%, according to the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities. Many of the administration's proposed SNAP reforms are familiar. The budget suggests restricting states' ability to issue food stamps to unemployed adults, even in areas where few jobs are available. It recommends eliminating SNAP nutrition education programs, raising the age limit for SNAP recipients no longer required to work, and capping the benefit amount for large families of 6 or more. The push to institute broad work requirements also extends to families receiving housing vouchers, expanding on moves by nearly a dozen states to require Medicaid and food stamps recipients to work. The reforms at the Department of Housing and Urban Development were intended to encourage the dignity of work and self-sufficiency and chart a new course for the future of public housing, the document said. Trump's proposed budget for the 2019 fiscal year includes a 14% cut to HUD, amounting to $6.8 billion below the agency's current $48 billion in spending. That's an even deeper cut than its previous year's proposal, which had been the most dramatic cut to HUD since the early 1980s. The proposal would eliminate the entire fund for public housing capital repairs, a savings of nearly $2 billion a year. The cut comes at a time when public housing faces a $40 billion backlog of capital needs, says Diane Yentl, president and chief executive of the National Low-Income Housing Coalition. In New York City, about 80% of public housing tenants suffer heating and hot water outages in recent months because the aging boiler systems are in desperate need of repair, Yentl said. Trump also proposed cutting a federal housing subsidy known as Section 8 vouchers by nearly $1 billion, which Yentl said would affect more than 250,000 low-income families. The proposed HUD budget, like last year, would eliminate funding for community development block grants, which play a key role in disaster recovery, as well as grants to states and local governments to increase home ownership for the lowest income Americans. On health care for low-income Americans, Trump's budget calls for cutting federal Medicaid funding substantially over the coming decade. This would occur in part by eliminating the Medicaid expansion adopted by nearly 36 states under the ACA to allow residents with slightly higher incomes to join the program, something Congress would need to approve. In addition, the budget would end Medicaid's half-century as an entitlement in which the federal government gives each state a certain share of the expense of covering every resident who is eligible. Instead, the program would be converted to a system in which the government provided either a block grant or a per-person cap, while freeing states from federal rules for medical benefits and eligibility. Yearly increase would be tied to inflation, which typically rises more slowly than spending on medical costs. To pay for part of this switch, the spending plan also would, starting in 2021, end the subsidies that would help more than 4 in 5 Americans with ACA marketplace coverage pay for their insurance premiums. The contours of these health care changes are patterned after the Senate Republican proposal to repeal the ACA, sponsored primarily by Senators Lindsey Graham, Republican South Carolina, Bill Cassidy, Republican Louisiana, that failed last fall. Dan Mendelsohn, president of the Washington-based healthcare consulting firm Avalar Health and the Medicaid parts of the budget are rhetorical because consensus does not exist in Congress for changes of this scale. But Mendelsohn, a former OMB official during the Clinton administration, said that other parts are more realistic, including an experiment with allowing a few states to create formularies, sidestepping a rule that requires Medicaid to pay for every drug on the market. All of the deep cuts to the social safety net that Trump proposed last year were rejected by Congress on a bipartisan basis, and the budget bill passed by Congress last week increased spending amounts in discretionary programs. But Yentl said she fears that cuts in Trump's budget proposal lower the bar for what's considered acceptable. The president's budget request is always considered dead on arrival in Congress, especially in an election year, Yentl said. My concern is that it leaves open a space for a compromise to be less severe but still a significant cut to programs. And that is from the Washington Post, written by Tracy Jan. There's his budget. And what can I tell you? Now, there's things that will have to be passed, such as, certain things in the SNAP program and even under HUD, certain things have to be passed. But a lot of this stuff is already on the books. It's already in law that the president just has to activate. A lot of that stuff was actually passed. Some of that stuff was actually passed under Bill Clinton, and some of this stuff was actually under Obama that's already passed. Now, how fast he cuts these programs and what he's allowed to do is a different story, because the president has a lot of discretionary power that doesn't have to go through Congress. He can use what's on the books already. So it's going to be interesting to see during an election year. Normally during an election year, it's not that bad, but there's a backlog of damage that's already, you have a lot of people that are already waiting for public housing, people that are losing their jobs. Automation is going to be bad this year, and it is going to be a train wreck. It's going to be a train wreck this year, even during an election year. And this is going to set up 2019 to be, I don't even want to think about 2019, to be honest with you. 2018 is going to be bad enough. It's already not great. 2018 is already shaping up to be not great. That's how come we have all these fools going crazy. But 2019 is going to be a bear. They're going to be talking about, I think they're going to be talking about the universal basic income in 2019. Hell, you already got teacher strikes in 2 states because the pension funds and the pay is getting so bad. Life is getting so bad. I was just talking to one of my subs in London, and she was saying that even in London, because of the budget constraints, a lot of her university presidents have walked out. I think there's going to be a lot of strikes this year. I really do. The teacher strikes is just the tip of the iceberg. So there is more fear porn, as some of my detractors would like to say. I'm constantly making people afraid. Maybe I'll try 1 week of talking about nothing but Pollyanna and nice news and happy stuff. I might try that 1 week. Maybe I'll try that in April. Let's talk about happy news and talk about the future and stuff that you can do, something uplifting. Maybe that'll be better. Because I know you guys. I know because I feel it the same way. But I feel it's my job to actually point this stuff out so you can actually prepare yourself. Or hopefully prepare yourself. All I can say, it is what it is. And this is coming. It's coming. It's coming in the United States, and they're actually holding back because what's going on globally that's going to force a lot of these actions to be taken. It's ugly. It's ugly here. It's ugly all over the world. It ain't just here. It's a global thing. And when it's a global thing like this, it's not even discretionary. You can blame who you want. You can blame Donald Trump. Donald Trump he's probably not the best card player, but he's still playing the hand that's dealt him. And under certain circumstances, it doesn't matter who's in office. Even Obama was in office. He would have to do some cuts. He was already doing cuts to HUD. He was already doing cuts to the SNAP program, maybe not as fast as Trump might, but he was already doing it. And who can tell what he would have done in this situation in these 2 years? It is the hand that you're being dealt. It is the hand that they've been dealt. And history doesn't care. History doesn't give a damn about who you are, what you're crying about, whether you live or die. Because somebody's going to rise up and to replace you. So history doesn't give a damn. It will roll over you just like lava over a forest. Burn down anything in its path. But anyway, I'm going to jump off of here. Say what you will. Brothers, get ready. Young ladies, black women, that you out on this assistance. You out with your, with your butt hanging in the wind, thinking some man's going to save you. Ain't enough Black Panther suits, vibranium suits to go around. So be cautious. Take care. Guard your womb. Brothers, wrap that bad boy up. Don't get caught up in this system. Stay away from that goddamn opioid. Read, study, get some skills, and get ready for the next phase. Because if you ain't ready for the next phase, you're going to be underneath that lava. Going to roll right over you. But anyway, let me jump off of here. This is BGS out, and I will see you guys on the next one.